Fantastic. It's Sunday night. It's 8 o'clock, and you're watching Let's Kill Twitter with me, Julian Hall. This is the show that aims to detox your timeline with the art of conversation. No easy task, of course, but I won't be alone to do that, thankfully. We've got two fantastic guests tonight, the comedians David Mills and Dana Alexander, and also, of course, my co-host, the equally fantastic comedian Sajeela Kershi. Hello!
Woo! Yes, it's Sunday,
Hello.
just after Black Friday and Thanksgiving last week. Gosh, there's loads going on, isn't there? But I don't think we've got any treats for any of those.
About Thanksgiving, yeah.
Yeah, I know. I forgot to say, happy Thanksgiving to all our American friends out there. Good on you.
And there
for
are some, I can
celebrating.
tell, there are some, because the people who join us on Eventbrite, hello Eventbrite people, there are quite often viewers from America there, so that's great, yeah. So
we did actually do, I know, an Asian Muslim family yesterday. We did sort of like a Thanksgiving. We call it our Thanksgiving. It's always on the Saturday after Thanksgiving, which is, I'm sure Dave will correct us as an American, is on the Thursday. And it's just an excuse for the family to get together, really, and talk about our bargains from Good Friday. But yeah, we had that yesterday, so I cooked a massive meal for all of us. It was piri chicken because they didn't want roast because we're having roast at Christmas and they can only do so many bland meals, they said.
Okay, that's pretty exciting, actually. I've got no foodie things to report, unfortunately. And I wouldn't say that I've been glued to Twitter this week, but actually the last couple of days, if Twitter had a weather, then that weather would be termed distinctly masky at the moment, because obviously now we've got I want to call it Omnicom, but it's not. I want to call it Ofcom, but it's Omicron, which sounds like someone's taking Macron's name in vain, but just mispronouncing it. This is a new variant, and obviously we've had the restrictions, or the restrictions reimposed, I should say, the ones that should have been with us already. Then it's all gone a bit sort of crazy, and then all the mask stuff is going off on Twitter, and we're gonna actually choose a tweet each, aren't we? So yes. I've chosen mine on masks, and you can you think about yours. I just need to let the viewers know, as if they didn't already, that they should absolutely follow us on Twitter at LKTZoom, because you can engage with us live during the show, which would be fantastic. Comments, questions, suggestions, etc. And also, we're now live, hopefully, across Twitch and YouTube and Facebook Live. If you follow us on YouTube or go and watch us on YouTube, that would be fantastic, because you can give us a subscribe, which we would dearly love. And also all our previous shows and clips are on YouTube. So that's the admin done. I've banged on about masks, so let me sort of get my little tweet out on that, which it's from Lottie Earns. Now Lottie used to, I'm not sure that Earns is necessarily her actual surname, but Lottie worked with Martin Lewis, the Mummy guy. And she tweeted, this is only a couple, it's obviously quite recently. She tweeted, here's what I don't understand about the anti-vax, anti-face mark people. Why would the government get us to take these measures if they didn't work? They keep seeing it as a control thing, but like, how does the government benefit from me wearing a mask in Tesco or getting a jab? What's the evil end game? Should have got more retweets and likes. It's an excellent question. I don't know what the answer is to that. Maybe someone will tweet it at us later.
Yeah, we don't have the answers here at their world. We just like to pose the questions. And of course, I'm glad you picked that one, because mask has been a big thing. I know we're going to meet David in a minute, but we performed on Friday at my club, and we couldn't. I bought the free mask. You think you'd get something for free? They'll take it. But no, it seems to be a general thing out there that people don't feel, because I think they feel that there is going to be some pressure to go back to some. But I'm a pro mask person myself, and I have got a masky tweet if we want to.
Yeah, totally. I mean, we're not very diverse on the mask front. You and I, we're definitely agreed on that. No. That's for sure.
So my mask one is basically it's from UK is with EU at UK is with EU. And it just says no mask on train, no mask at theatre, no mask at hospital, no mask next to Edinburgh. And it's referring to Boris Johnson basically refusing to wear the mask. And all of those things like really upset me. We know the one that upset me the most is Edinburgh. He's a legend.
Yeah.
How can you nearly infect our legend, Attenborough? Like, you know, he's done these amazing things. What have you done, Boris?
It's
Apart from
legend next to Bell End. Legend next to Bell End is what. What it
no,
I love
Attenborough. But yeah, so it's kind of just saying, and it's true. If you can't lead from the front, then you know we've got no hope really. But I wonder what you know. I guess are going to make of what you know. I know they've got lots of fabulous treats themselves.
Well. Totally, absolutely. Well, we're going to introduce our guest properly now. I'll introduce Dana, and you can introduce David. Dana, of course, is a returning guest. I'm going to rescue Dana from the Zoom room in just a moment. Canadian-born Dana Alexander has a firebrand comedic style, drawing on her diverse life experience and Jamaican family. Beginning her comedy career at 18, she soon toured nationally and performed at 5 comedy galas for Canadian TV. After moving to the UK, her Edinburgh Festival solo show received rave reviews and nominations for the Black Comedy Awards and 2 Chortle Awards. This led to television appearances including Russell Howard's Good News, the Edinburgh Comedy Fest live show on BBC 3 and the Culture Show on BBC 2. And so it's fantastic to have Dana with us again, and you're going to introduce David and we'll get them in the Zoom room.
Yes. Well, David, lovely to see you again. But David is an award-winning comedian known for his sharp and hilarious take on modern culture and politics. Sharp as his suits, I have to say. His signature razor wit has been seen in New York, LA, San Francisco, London, and across Britain. He's open for the comedy icons like Margaret Chow, Scott Capurro, Ed Byrne. And he's also a fantastically talented actor. He's appeared in Florence Foster Jenkins with Meryl Streep and Hugh Grant, in Patrick Melrose with Benedict Cumberbatch, and Mandy with Diane Morgan. Welcome, David. How are you? I know we only saw each other on Friday. How are you doing today?
Hi there, David. You're on mute at the moment. Oh, here we go.
I'm unmuted, and I'm great.
Excellent stuff. How were you when you were muted? Were you still great?
I'm unmuted now. Yes. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
Not as good as I am unmuted.
I was. I do remember. I thought when I was reading back that biography earlier, and Patrick Melrose was mentioned. I do remember when I was watching Patrick Melrose, I was like, there was the bit that you appeared in. It was like, that's David Mills. It was very exciting.
That was me. Yeah, I was wearing a funny wig, and they put a mustache on me, so I could be, easily missed. But yes, the eagle-eyed viewers spotted me. Absolutely.
It's so funny. We had a discussion because David Mills, people out there, were played my comedy club, Comedy Cottage, on Friday, and there was a discussion afterwards, and so many people were saying, "Do you know what? When I watched that, I was thinking, I know that voice. I know that voice, especially the comedians." And I certainly did the same thing, and I had to rewind. It was like, what is it? They're so familiar. So, oh, it's him. And so it's like, we know you, but we don't know we know you. It's you in that film.
Well, it's funny when you know someone and then you see them in out of context. You don't expect to see a comic that you know from the circuit in a scene with Hugh Grant. I also didn't expect to be there, so I know exactly how you feel.
But it's the same with, I know you obviously opened for Scott Capurro as well. Scott Capurro in Mrs. Doubtfire.
Yes.
Julian,
yes.
Did you know that he was in Mrs. Doubtfire? Because I try and find him every time I watch it and then forget to look for
I don't think I've seen Mrs. Doubtfire. That's so bad.
Oh my God.
I know, that's so bad.
It's a classic.
I know.
Classic.
I did watch The House Bunny last night, which I have seen twice. I don't know. I just needed cheering up. Now I'm gonna let Dana in again. I'm not sure we're gonna get a visual on Dana, which is a shame. I might ask her to put a still up of her. And then just claim that she's frozen. But while we're sort of sorting out the tech with Dana, look at that.
As if.
Yeah, that's
Boris. Magic. Hey, you're looking gorgeous,
hello.
Dana.
We can hear you.
Oh, am I here? Can you see me?
Yeah, I can see you. Yes, fantastic. Oh, good. I'll let me share this to the Facebook stream now that I know we've got a functioning screen. Come on.
Yay.
Oh, goodness. How are you?
It is, Miss Dana. Hello.
Hello. I'm trying to get to
whilst Julian's doing that, just mentioned Thanksgiving. So you guys both celebrating?
No.
No. Okay. Well, we know why by not celebrating Dana. And David, are you doing? Is that because I know
I did Thanksgiving on Thursday. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I was just wondering if that's why you were with our other American friend Karen Novak. Hello, by the way. Thank you for letting David use your
yes,
technology.
I am with Karen. Yeah, we're having a long overdue catch up, so that's lovely to see her.
Okay, fantastic. So we're back, and we're hopefully got everybody on board now, and properly start. Is that right, Julian?
Yeah, I think we're Cora. We can begin. Who's taking minutes? No, I'm just kidding. So we've had a little chat with David there, and about the lovely acting credits. What about, we always start with the kind of how is IRL going, by which I mean in real life, of course, obviously, and then obviously talk a little bit about the online existence of your good selves. How is it to be back? I know we've been away for a while, and now it's kind of, I think we'll still be back. I don't think they're ever going to kind of lock down again, but what's the vibe? Because Dana, I think, let me start with you, Dana, simply because you are a returning guest, and also I think the last time you were with us, which was with Ian Stone, where were we in the whole lockdown fandango?
I think we had a couple of months left. Like, we were deep in the middle of it, so far as I can remember.
So. Yeah. So how is it going?
Yeah, for some reason when I'm...
Sorry.
It's been going pretty good, actually. I can't complain, except for I had my first cancellation since lockdown today. I was supposed to be in Switzerland on Tuesday, but now with this new, what's it called, Americon, or what's it called?
Yeah, Ofcom. We were saying Omicron, I believe.
Omicron,
sounds
yeah.
Like it should be sung, which obviously would defeat the object of not spraying it all over the place.
Yeah, so that's what's happening.
That's not bad. One cancellation. That's pretty good.
Well, I mean, that's the first one.
Right, okay.
It's a bad time.
Yeah.
Yeah, give us some time. I'm sure some other ones. I guess it might be okay for domestic gigs because, it takes the longest for the UK to pull their finger out, really. So, it's all the foreign gigs that are going to get pulled, which is, of course, the ones that, I've been waiting to go to and see.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's going to affect you as well, David, right?
It is. In fact, I'm going to California in December and January, and I have gigs lined up in San Francisco and LA. So I don't know where we'll be at that time. Maybe things will have advanced in California by then, and they'll be shutting things down. Who knows? So I'm just keeping my fingers crossed that I can, things will still be okay over there. Who knows?
Yeah, let's hope it's all safe, because that's one thing that I think I'd like to travel into more sort of warmer climes. Kind of over the lockdown on the island now. I want to go to other islands.
Yeah, exactly.
And Jill, do you want to go on holiday? I'm sure.
I'd totally love to. I noticed that Simon Evans was sharing some photos of Seville recently, and I absolutely love Seville. I would just, I'm just going to become a bit boring and just keep going back to Seville as soon as I get the chance. But don't dangle that prospect in front of me, Sajeela. At this point, it just seems it's now seeming quite remote. I don't know.
So let's see what we can do. Where we can't travel, maybe we can travel via our guest tweets to other places, or at least other stories.
Yes.
What do we got? What do we got in the mix? Who should we start with?
Flipping heck, what haven't we got in the mix?
It's a good mix this way, guys. You did good team.
I tell you, I could almost do this in order actually. Let's go to. So this is a Dana's choice, one of Dana's choices.
A lot of action. Shall we watch it?
We don't even need the. I'm not sure how much there is sound. But so this is. I don't know.
It's really aggressive.
The origin of the footage, but we've seen this kind of thing going on in sort of Black Friday for a number of years, have we not? And then the crucial sort of shot here, so it's only 15 seconds, is when it's the guy saying, "This is so depressing." This is a tweet from Imposter at Imposter Edits. "This is so depressing. Watch the person snatch that box out of a child's hand." It's
God.
It's grim, isn't it? Did anyone partake in Black Friday at all? And I don't mean nicking a box from a child either, but
I did online. I did try and do bid for this, a child's table and chairs. I don't have a child, but it was only £1. And I suddenly, it just got really obsessed with it. And I just really wanted it. And you had to keep like clicking on the link to get the ones that they were releasing. And I didn't make it. And I was just like really disappointed. And I was like, you didn't want that. What are you getting upset about? It was because it was £1. It was a bargain. Anything, dangle a bargain at me. And I'm buying all that stuff. But no, I would never get to this. But the only time I went feral like that was when I went to get a Teletubby for my son when he was a baby. And I had to get a Lala. And I tell you, I would cut those bitches if I had to at Woolworths to get a Lala for him. And I know as parents, like you would do the same, Julian.
Wow.
But not like this. But I wouldn't hurt a child.
Yeah, I got memories of being in Hamleys, like when I was a kid, which are really sort of, I would say it dates me, but Hamleys is still with us. But I mean, Dana, you chose this tweet. You've never experienced this firsthand, I take it?
Oh God, no! I'm far too lazy for all of that. But I just, I just find it hilarious when people just like, as soon as they're like, "Fuck the children," and that's when it's just like, okay, it's going down. I thought that was so funny how that woman just stole that thing from the kid. I was like, lady, you've lost it. This is gonna follow you forever.
Do we know what's in the box?
Yeah, sorry. That's a good point. I was trying to work that out.
I can't tell what it is.
I can't tell what it is. It looks like some kind of no,
like a pan or something.
Yeah, well, I don't know. It's got to be something. It also looks like a kind of answering machine. It's like maybe this is footage from just a sale in the 80s or something. I don't know.
Well, I mean, what's so depressing about it is it's probably some rubbish anyway. You know what I mean? It's probably not even of that much value. And, in the US, shopping is a contact sport. So this is not super surprising. This probably wasn't even filmed on Black Friday. You know what I mean? This is a typical Tuesday.
I love that. Shopping as a contact. That should be the ad campaign. Should be Black Friday. Shopping as a contact sport. That would make me go.
I love it because obviously Julian and I are really good, really big like Friends fans, and those are friends for everyone. Do you remember the wedding dress when it was a military operation to get the
place in Brooklyn, and she's
yes. She's... maybe the British shoppers are more more sort of reserved, because that I didn't see that there was a need to sort of like throw yourself on the boxes before. I mean, surely you only do that a lot. I mean, I did that for croissants recently in M&S in Reigate. There was a box of croissants came out. They were the last croissants, and I needed the croissant. And I remember seeing the last one, and I just kind of dived. And Reigate's too polite to do anything. Hello, Reigate. And it said, "Oh my God, she got the last packet of croissants." But then I felt like dirty afterwards. I thought, well, perhaps I shouldn't have been so desperate for them. But generally speaking, we are a little bit more reserved, I think.
In the US, you're proud of this. These people are thrilled that they got this. They're going to build careers on this. You know what I mean? The people in this footage. This is the beginning of their career in the world wrestling.
It should be a TV show.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's so exciting.
It's kind of like extreme supermarket sweep, isn't it? Essentially. Yeah.
Well, wasn't there, Dana? Do you remember? We had, when I was growing up, they had that kind of supermarket game show where you had to shop as much as you could in a certain amount of time.
That's it, isn't it?
Yeah, I do recall that. We got a lot of American television. It was definitely not a Canadian program, but I am familiar with it.
Well, we had Supermarket Sweep with Dale Winton, and that was basically you had to get everything off the shelves, and I assumed that had come from an American format. I mean, there's a couple of sort of accompanying tweets with these, which I can actually quickly share with you, which I did pick out, hopefully. Martin Lewis, if he's there. Oh, well, actually, so it's, I believe the writer, it's Queeve McDonnell. I had to look this up. How do you pronounce his first name? And I think it's Queeve. He said, "Feels like Black Friday has become too spiritual and the commercial meaning behind it is being lost." And then on the serious note was Martin Lewis. Gosh, we've had double Martin Lewis today. My money mantra is at Black Friday: if you're skint, ask yourself, do I need it? Can I afford it? Have I checked if it's cheaper elsewhere? If you're not skint, ask yourself, will I use it? Is it worth it? Have I checked if it's cheaper elsewhere? if the answer to any of these questions is no, don't buy it. I think that should be
Good
one of
advice,
the...
Martin. Good advice.
Good advice.
But very funny, Queeve. Yeah, no, that's a good pick, Dana. Thanks for that. I actually wanted to ask what the difference between the Canadian Good Friday and the American Good Friday. Who would win on the most,
Black Friday.
Yeah.
Oh, the Americans would win.
Yeah. I mean, remember, we're all packing heat as well. So,
Yeah.
What you didn't see is when people brought their guns out. That was the next video, that they didn't show. That's when it really, gets to the sort of final round,
as it were. So, David, I moved on to one of your selections here from the Daily Clinch at Art of the Clinch.
Yes. Shall I explain it?
Yeah, totally. If you read it and then explain it, that'd be fantastic. Yeah.
Fate brought them together. Desire swept them away. Fortune's Lady by Robin Leanne Waite. Onyx, 1990, illustrated, signed Greg Gulbronson. And if you scroll down, you can see the cover. And basically, this is an account on Twitter that every day tweets another cover in this genre of romance novels that are mostly from the 80s and the 90s that we had in the US. I'm not sure if you had them here in the UK, but they were these insane covers, all like this, all this outrageous kind of romance, the most kind of... What's that?
With Fabio on it.
Yes, most of them were Fabio, exactly. Mm-hmm. And there was a publisher called Harlequin, and they were called Harlequin Romances, and they would line at the supermarket. You would be checking out your groceries, and there would be all these romance novels that you could choose from, and they've gone through all the charity shops and found a bunch of them, and then every day they tweet another one, and they're so ridiculous that it's a real treat every morning to look at my Twitter feed and see another one that is completely ridiculous and outrageous.
Oh, no, they're amazing. Just a very quick update from superfan Martin, who's watching tonight. Apparently, those Black Friday items were vegetable steamers. I mean,
wow.
Okay,
really?
Well then it makes sense. It makes sense.
It's about the price, though. It's about the price. How much were they?
Americans
they were
like
like
in a hurry for their $5 a day. All of a sudden, I don't know.
All of a sudden,
there wasn't even a price on them, so it's like normally they have the big sort of sticker. There was no sticker, so they're just like, it was Black Friday. We'll just go for it. We'll just go for it. To not even know the price.
It was probably on the bin. They know the price.
Yeah, they probably came prepared. Like that is what we're coming in for. But going back to your tweets, you just asked if we had something similar. Yes, we did. We had Mills and Boons, and I consumed it like crack cocaine. Honestly, I was so addicted to it when I was growing up, and I learned all about relationships and sex from these books because I wasn't allowed to have sexual education and at school because my mum wouldn't, she thought I'd be corrupted. But and it's all about heaving bosoms and rippling muscles, and and she's always saying no, and then eventually she gives in, and it's always brutal man, but she falls for him. And so it's a really warped sense of relationships that I got from these Mills and Boons. But they did have I mean, look at this one. It's just, it's
so camp, right?
Yeah,
and of course they're called bodice-rippers, aren't they?
Bodice-rippers, that's right. Yeah.
Bodice-rippers.
To show the heaving bosoms and
to show the heaving bosoms, exactly. And apparently, the man comes and the woman, submits, and he rips open the bodice, and she loves it, and it's outrageous.
I know, it's such a bad message.
Probably
as well,
because it was so uncomfortable. You know what I mean? You're like, oh, now I can breathe.
Yes. And then he falls on top of you like, oh, fuck, get off me.
It's got a vibe of the Gone with the Wind about it as well, with Scarlett O'Hara. Like, Red, I hate you, Red, I hate you. And then she's like, oh, and then she starts kissing him. Like I said,
exactly.
bad messages to give, right? Not a good thing to go out with.
Not healthy. Not healthy.
No, healthy. But I love this retrospect. This guy. So who they're tweeting? We just scroll down a bit. Julian, so it's Daily Clinch. They do this every day. There's a different.
Every day, a different cover and a different. Yeah, a different little tagline, whatever it says on the cover.
I love this.
It's hilarious.
Now, unconsciously, you two have performed a slight kind of double act tonight in the sense that David's tweets are all really quite kind of silly and fun, and Dana's are all pretty serious, actually. So I think we're just going to have to
That's
do
a good combo.
silly and serious. Let's actually take the one that you did. This is really interesting one here. Dana, if you just want to read that one out, and then we'll go into it.
Let me get to that page. Oh, yes. Remember that policewoman who walked into the wrong apartment and murdered a man? That was the press was eager to tell you that he had weed in his house as if that excused his death. That's what's happening here. So I'm sure you guys heard the story about the cricketer. So now that he's complained about racism, they're trying to find everything bad that he's ever done, every parking ticket, do you know what I mean? As if that's going to X out what happened to him. Do you know what I mean? And it's just such a blatant tactic. But it was, it's always the defense that gets me more than anything. It's just that inability to like hear the guy out, right? They did a very similar thing to Meghan Markle, I would say.
Okay, I'm going to have to sort of be devil's advocate here because it's a newspaper and they found a story and they want to run with the story. And the Yorkshire Post have run, obviously, because it was Yorkshire County Cricket Club where this happened. They've covered this issue very closely, and they've covered Azeem's testimony in the House of Commons very closely. And I think if you read that report, it's still quite neutral, but it's very. It's the spirit of the event that happened, which was a very convincing testimony and so on and so forth. So I think their coverage to this issue has been pretty close on all of the chapters of what's happened. And sure, if a journalist gets a story, whether it was the tweets, the sort of the anti-Semitism issue, which he obviously responded to very quickly, or whether it's these tweets where the woman who's received them has actually been quoted in the piece as well. It's still a story. I mean, I don't know how you get. I mean, I understand what you can see the machinations
it just seems
behind
pretty,
it.
I just think that it's a bit inappropriate. Do you know what I mean? Like, let's focus on the issue. If these were issues that he had before and behaviors that were problems before, then I just find it very interesting that, okay, yeah, there's a story, but there's a story with anyone. It's almost to say that it sets a precedent of, okay, well, I can't complain about something unless my record's completely clean. Do you know what I mean? So I think it was kind of used to undermine,
But I mean, who hasn't had their tweets, who in the public eye or in the eye of a story hasn't had their tweets and their past misdemeanors scrolled through and reported? I mean, that's the symptomatic of the age that we live in. And obviously, if that happens, you can then apply any agenda, you like to that. I mean, I think there's a lot in what you're saying, but it has happened to a wide range of people.
Some people are kind of above that. I think, like in the instance, I guess it's different, but of death and things like that. For example, when Prince Philip had passed away, people weren't sitting there going on and on and on about the countless horrible, racist things.
You mean people in the media? They were on Twitter. They were on Twitter.
Maybe they were on Twitter, but I'm just saying, I was just sitting there thinking everyone's going on about him. I'm like, as if he's like this amazing guy. And I'm like, well, when he was alive, he had some pretty interesting things to say. I guess we're just going to leave that part out now. But
I think that's a fair point from a media point of view. Sorry, Sajeela, go on.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I know it came up in one of our shows previously where, it was asked, like, how far do you go back into your Twitter social media history to kind of, throw mud at you now? Like, well, you said this then, and that you have to be accountable for anything that you might have said. Obviously, in this case, he sent text messages and stuff, and yeah, that if it is inappropriate, that should be dealt with. But I think I also get Dana's point, which is that it is, and it does seem to be that because he is, accusing a cricket club of racism, and he's, basically an Asian guy, that suddenly it's like, let's find what we can find on him, any dirt, and that someone's put that out there. Like, let's go and see, rather than deal with the separate issues, which I think that's what you're trying to say, Dana. It's like, it's like, that is a separate thing. Racism, that isn't stopped. Whatever he's done in the past has not stopped the cricket club from being accountable for the racism that they had in, inherently rooted into their organization. So that's and other people have come forward as well, without that. So it's not whatever he's done, that's wrongdoing. It is a separate thing to what he was saying, and other people have also come forward.
And they weren't tweets; they were the text
messages.
Private
that's right.
text.
Yeah, they were. Which again, people's WhatsApp messages have been mined through. I mean, it's interesting to find out. I want to come to David in a minute about what he thinks about mining social media, but it's interesting that, where's the agenda here? So is it the cricket club that are briefing a journalist and saying, well, by the way, whatever, is it coming from that? It's quite possible that I mean, that's not an allegation I will make legally, but it's possible that a source has gone to the paper, and that's usually how stories work. Or is it the paper that necessarily have sort of gone out to look for this? But either, whoever it's come from, I think most people, certainly after that testimony, will see that yes, two stories can coexist side by side, and you can absolutely make a judgment about that the racism has happened. I mean, if there are people that are going to be swayed, I mean, there will be, I understand what you're saying. There may be people who are swayed by, he might send dodgy tweets, dodgy texts, but the big picture's still there. It was still a big story.
But there has been lots on Twitter of accusations of he must be lying. If he, he's such a hypocrite. He's this, he's that. He's lying. He's a scumbag. So therefore, it kind of takes away from the racism, and that, we see that happening over and over actually in many other cases. But I want to bring in David, because David's been quiet on this, and I just wondered what your take on this was.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's also sadly depressingly not surprising. You know what I mean? This anytime these kinds of accusations are made, the person making the accusation is undermined. And it happens if it's racism, it happens with Me Too, it happens with so many things. And how are we to make progress in this world if, there's this equivalency between everything, and no one is allowed to call anything out, because if they do, their whole lives are combed through for every minor infraction that they've ever made, then undermines or distracts from the justified claims they were making.
I have a question. Really quickly, Julian, do you think it's appropriate for the victim of a murder from someone who's got broken into his house falsely? Do you think it's appropriate to comment on whether or not he was a weed user?
Well, I mean, it's I don't know. There's no. It's a press guideline. I don't know if that's. I mean, I didn't see that story. Well, I do remember that story, but I haven't seen the coverage of it. But I'm sure it, obviously exists. I mean, obviously, when you come to sort of the deceased, it takes it into a slightly different area morally. And is it something that has an impact on a legal case? Is it something that could meddle with the outcome of a legal case? And there all seem to be a lot of ramifications there. I certainly don't feel comfortable. I don't feel comfortable mining anyone's previous sort of. Well, tweets are public, but certainly like the text messages, and actually that applies to MPs as well. I don't see why. I don't see. I know WhatsApp groups are sort of dangerous, and there's probably always somebody leaking from a WhatsApp group. But there are stories that seem to have been garnered by other means of infiltrating WhatsApp groups, and I'm not, it's not something I'm in favour of. I'm just saying that unfortunately, when the information is made available, I don't know many news outlets that wouldn't run it if that subject's already in the public eye. I'm not saying that's right. I'm just saying that seems to be a reality that we live with. I mean that, and then making a decision not to run that story has to be based on quite a lot of factors. I mean, the false equivalency that David's talking about is important, but yeah.
I literally am reeling through my all the WhatsApp conversations I've had, my different WhatsApp groups, and thinking, oh my God, I need to delete all of them, because what you say in a WhatsApp group, it is private between that little group. You're having, the equivalent of car journeys with comedians, or would you want, that should there not be some privacy that we are allowed? And interesting you said about like MPs who feel the same way, because part of me wants to sort of say, well, no, because they are like, they uphold the law, and but the other side thinks, well, no, I don't. I want to keep my, some things of my life private. It has become like everything we do is paid out on, to the world, literally everything, and it's not, you don't have to be a celeb to be in that position. But let's have something.
Can I just quickly, before we move off, because we have spent, I knew this one was very interesting and I wanted to get onto it, and we will move on to the next one ASAP. But of course, the crucial thing that should be mentioned, and I did refer to it vaguely at the start, is that the lady who received these text messages is quoted in the piece. So it suggests that she may well have been the one to bring this story to them. And again, don't know many. There are papers that might decline it because it's not in their sort of tabloid interest zone. But if it's a very large regional paper that sort of straddles readers who are both broadsheet and tabloid readers, then I can't say I'm hugely surprised that it's run. But a good conversation, because it was a really important testimony, and that's the key message from this is what he had to say about his treatment. Now I feel that maybe we'll have a sandwich. Should we have the two serious ones and then go back to something else?
Edgy.
What should we do? Well, obviously it can't go without Jeremy Vine, because there's a huge.
I know you're a fan.
There's a huge Jeremy Vine fan. It's Jeremy Vine bingo. I watch the show every day. I watch the edition that Dana's picked out here. Dana, do you just want to read this one out again, and we'll go through it again? Oh, at that moment, no, there you go. You disappeared momentarily.
Yeah, sorry, that was me. I'm done with politicians like Boris and Priti Patel coming out with thoughts and sympathies for families of those who died. Shola Moss is fed up with the government's problematic stance on people attempting to cross the channel.
Yeah, I mean, a huge issue, this one. And this was a really enjoyable show. She was on with Ian Dale, who's been on this show before. And they had a very good. They actually had a very good debate between the two of them.
Shola I know very well, and she's been on a few shows last week talking about this issue. Now you picked this, and I know obviously from private talks that you're, refugees, and it's a huge thing. So what made you pick this? Is it because of the hypocrisy that you feel that's going on, Dana?
Well, wasn't it Priti that was looking for all of these deterrents, like a wave machine, for example, which would exactly, go against these sympathies or making things safe? I think when you look at what's been happening with all of the legislation, they're pretty much making it illegal for a person to be a refugee, and you can't really do that. And I think besides this particular tweet, I was reading another article, of all of this displaced people in the world, the UK has 1% of them. They have the 17th most refugees in Europe, and they have about half of the average per capita for refugees when it comes to Europe. So I find this all kind of very hypocritical. And of course, I've dated a couple of refugees, and when you look at the system and what they have to do to kind of like prove that they've been persecuted. Of course, we did my podcast with what was her name again? That lovely lady, Tua.
Yes. The refugee lady.
Yeah, and she was a lesbian from Cambodia, and she basically had to show up with half of the lesbian, community in court just to, for her claim to be taken seriously. In another case, I remember, I actually know someone who was, tortured at quite a young age, and when they actually did get to the courts, they were just basically like, give me a break. This person has every right to be here. So there's this stalling thing that kind of deters people from doing anything when their claims are in fact legitimate. And I don't think that the UK is like, there's this idea that, oh, why are they always coming over here then? And it's like, actually, Turkey has the majority of them. We don't really hear that as much in the conversation, which I find,
Yeah, obviously we can't not make, talk about the deaths, tragic, and that kind of really, it's if you're that desperate, you know, and I mean, and I know it's almost become a cliche and people don't really connect to that anymore, that, oh, you know, if they're that desperate, they wouldn't take that journey. But clearly, and a lot of it, I think, I don't know what you feel about the problems of why they become refugees. It's, we are part of that problem. You know, in Afghanistan, obviously, we've got a lot of people wanting to leave because of the Taliban. And who left the Taliban in charge? You know, after how many years and a war that didn't go anywhere, so apart from killing like loads more people, we created, so our foreign policies have many times created situations which creates the refugee, you know,
crises.
Yeah, exactly. So David, have you got any thoughts on this? Obviously, we're talking like two people who've made this their home, so are outsiders. And how do you feel about this, that, you know, in the UK?
Well, I think one thing that you know, we just had COP26, and so we had the world coming together to deal with or to try and come up with global solutions for a global problem of climate change. And I think really we need a similar coming together to deal with the refugee issue, because this is a global problem. There are refugee, you know, movements around the world that are complicated and difficult for all countries to deal with. And there should be a standard. There should be a code of conduct, of practice, so that we can, as a global community, try and resolve this issue in a humane way, or at least try and make it less lethal, if nothing else. You know, I think one of the big issues that's going to come when Donald Trump once again becomes president of the US is, you think you've got a bad refugee problem now, just wait until you get a bunch of American refugees washing up on the shores, because we are going to be very demanding.
I tweeted about that as well. That's funny you say that.
You know, we're going to want a double, you know, latte, you know, with oat milk, you know, on the beach, you know, and
yeah,
if that's not there,
we're
human
rights.
You know,
at least you'll have vegetable steamers, though.
Exactly.
Yeah. God.
Well,
American refugees are going to put the rest of you to shame. It's not going to be pretty, believe me.
You mentioned that you thought that there should be like a COP version for refugees, but there is. I was booked to do a gig for the UN like back in end of 2018 for the Global Compact signing in Marrakesh, and all the, you know, for the few days it was just talking about discussing refugees, and it was interesting. I was the only migrant effectively booked to talk about, so I'm the only migrant voice. And yet I was heavily censored in what I could and could not say. And I was like, well, this is ridiculous. This is like, there's a hypocrisy around here. Like, I can't even, I'm a privileged migrant, but I can't seem to be able to, you know, that they went through my story of what I obviously both done Immigrant Diaries, you know, of my journey, just to see that it wasn't going to be anything too, you know, dodgy. And I accidentally kind of like slated the German ambassador because he said some very off-key things about migrants. And everybody lost in translation. All I said was that was awkward, and they heard, oh, he's an asshole. I don't know how you get the two mixed up. And it was, you know, it was shown to
tell me you weren't thinking that though. I mean, there must.
I know, but and I think everyone's thinking that's the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
The elephant in the room. 72 countries live streamed. I had no idea, and they were just really angry. And I said, I said I wouldn't swear, and I didn't swear. I said, oh, the German ambassador, that's awkward, and the you know, the people with the headsets translating 72 countries like suddenly get he's an asshole, and they're just like, oh my god. But yeah, I mean, it's not,
that's a bad translation.
It you know, the people, yeah, it's a bad translation. But I should put it in the show somewhere, shouldn't I?
No, totally.
But it isn't, there isn't enough being done. Even then, you know, I thought, okay, maybe we're going to get forward, because the country signed this global compact to make sure that, you know, conditions were humane, there was safe travel, and no country is really kind of living up to that. And that is the issue. And so when you have got people dying, one person dying is one person too many. And I agreed with Shola in another show that she did. She said, it's the language that we use to describe these, you know, migrants. It's refugee has become a dirty word. It's a dirty word, you know, and it's all, and I don't think that, you know, they're understanding that. And I know I've said this before in the past, and, you know, my show, that the language that we use, that we try and like put that wall between us and them, and that they are these people, the others, they are very different to us, and they're not. They're exactly the same as us. They're the same lives, same issues. I've worked a lot with refugee, women, and they're qualified, they're educated, they're not. I don't know what people have got in their head that they're coming over scrounging to live in a hotel where they're going to be abused, not get any food and not have their families around them. That isn't something that you willingly want to do.
I think one of the things as well is that it serves Boris Johnson and the Conservatives to have this issue and not resolve it, because they can constantly point to it and say, Labour would open the doors and allow all these people through. And as long as this is festering away, they can stoke their base and their passions against the outsiders, and it keeps them in power. Do you know what I mean? So they're not really even trying to resolve it properly. It seems to me.
Great point there. So we agreed we're going to do series, and we've got something fun and flirty. What have we got next? David, I'm assuming.
I think might save the comedy. Well, actually, you've done Boris, so let's do.
Actually, yes.
Yeah, I mean that's actually.
How can we not mention that one?
Oh, I'm torn here. No, let's do Michael Spicer video. Which,
address the cost.
The room next door.
I may not do the whole thing, but we'll get the gist.
Of this country to unite and level up across the whole. That's why we are going to
address the cost of our nuclear power.
Address the cost of our nuclear power.
Why are you suddenly looking at the speech like it's been written in hieroglyphics with a sausage?
For the.
Can you just put the papers down? You look like a baby trying to read a mortgage application. Just move on to Crossrail.
And we are doing the beaching reversals.
Putting in lines that were taken out in the last century.
Putting in lines that were taken out, sadly, in the
last century.
In the 19.
In the last century.
Earlier this century.
No, the last century.
In the last century.
You remember the last century, don't you, Prime Minister? It was around about the time that this speech began. What's wrong? Where are you? Don't just stand there like a busted football mascot filled with old straw. Say something! No, I was thinking more in the area of actual words.
Forgive me.
Okay, that's a start. Now say something else.
Forgive me.
No, that's not something else.
Forgive me.
No, that's still not something else. That's the opposite of something else. I've got it. Page 14. People have confidence to stay nearer in the place where they grew up.
People will have the confidence to stay nearer.
And you need people to staff your businesses.
The people that you all need to
staff your businesses!
To staff your businesses.
Try to focus, you clueless bundle of horsehair. Your speech is just degenerating into a series of burps and burbles. You sound like a retired bishop drowning in a barrel of wine.
Yesterday I went, as we all must...
Don't bring this up, please. No one will laugh. No one ever laughs.
To Peppa Pig World.
Oh, for
Peppa Pig World. Hands up anyone who's been to Peppa Pig World.
Obviously no one.
Not enough.
Oh my God, this is so awkward. I can't unbend my arms.
Peppa Pig World is very much my kind of place.
Why? Are they selling off the NHS there too?
I had to let that run because I just wanted to see that Boris speech again.
I
mean, the original was pretty funny, David. But you know.
Well, I have to say I'm a huge fan of Michael Spicer, and I'm really thrilled with how he's really taken off. And it seemed to me that he really took off during the lockdown and pandemic, and he really made that work for him. And this is such a simple idea, but he does it so well and so effectively. And I've just really enjoyed all his tweets and little films, but I've also enjoyed watching his career skyrocket from this. So it's always a pleasure when he's always got something to say about the moment, and so it's great to watch.
Just for our podcast listeners, and then I want to go to Dana because she's still wearing the shocked face as if that's the first time you've seen Boris's speech. It's Michael Spicer, obviously, the room next door, Boris Johnson at the CBI, if you want to find that tweet. But yeah, Dana, you'd seen the speech, I take it.
Well, I've seen many, but it just, especially with the new lockdown coming, I'm just like, man, don't you guys feel insecure? Like, I can go back to Canada. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You
I
guys
don't.
are stuck. That's so awful. This is the leader at the helm. Oh my God! What an international embarrassment.
Yes.
Oh,
And it
that was
doesn't really
painful.
matter, it doesn't matter how much dirt he's another Trump. It just doesn't matter how much dirt you sling him, how many sleaze stories come out. The guy gets, he's unscathed. He's not marked. It's just like everybody still thinks he's doing okay. Not everybody, but a certain amount of the population
Enough
is still
people
guilty.
to have returned him with a thumping majority at the last election. I mean, maybe not so next time. But I mean, I don't know how many parallels we can make. A lot of parallels between Boris and Trump, but in terms of their fortunes, in terms of it all going belly up, whereas for Trump it was COVID, and the kind of sort of theatrics around that. I mean, I think, perhaps Boris is skating on thinner ice. But I mean, if he does, Dana, I can't let you go without explaining. You said the next lockdown. Can I just check that? Is that your prediction?
Well, I mean, it always starts like this, right? They start shutting down. I mean, how many Omicron? What is the new? How many variants have they found here? I think it's 2 so far.
We've had the Kent variant and Delta, and you mean the cases are 3 cases now? There's
3 cases now, and it's already like, okay, now it stopped me working on Tuesday, and it just keeps. Do you know what I mean? And I just don't think that. I mean, the way that variants work is that they're going to get better at outsmarting these vaccines, and the variant's always been inevitable. And I don't know. I feel like it's the only way that we're kind of gonna get ahead of this is a lockdown, because I don't know if you've been on the train, nobody's masking.
Fewer people are masking now. Yeah, definitely. It wasn't bad. A few weeks ago, it wasn't bad. I do this journey on Saturday, which takes me on the tube, and then it takes me on the overground train, and then back on the tube. And actually, tube carriages were often better than the overground train. But the overground train's interesting because it ends up in Wales. I don't go as far as that. And on the train, they say, the mask is recommended to this leg of the journey, and then when you get to Wales, it's mandatory. And that is just the ridiculousn's of the lack of policy that we've had. But getting back to Boris, I don't think if Boris cancels Christmas again, and I'm not saying that would be the right or the wrong thing to do. I just don't think he would do it, because I just think that would be the end of him, actually. Quite honestly,
I could see it doesn't have to be Christmas. I mean, like I said, I think if everyone's locking down at Christmas, we'll do it in February.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, I think I don't think that he's going to lock down again, because I don't think he can do it politically. But I think come January, after Christmas, people, when the weather is shit, when it's dark out, people are going to want to stay home anyway. And a lot of people will choose to or demand to work from home because, because it's the new variant is raging and it's cold and gray out and dark. And I just think it's going to shut down regardless, not fully shut down, but it's going to slow right on down in January anyway, after Christmas. I don't believe Boris has the political balls to shut it down again. And I don't think that if he were up for election, I think he would be reelected. But I think he has to watch out for people within his party who might just get ultimately so embarrassed by him that there's an internal coup within the Conservative Party and they get him out because as you say, Dana, he's a laughingstock.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because Prime Minister's question time earlier on, this kind of exposed there's a little bit of loss of faith in his own party. But also the fact that you mentioned about people not wanting to go out, and of course now we've left the genie out of the box about working from home. We're able to do this, let's face it, on Zoom. I also think it's not going to, the lockdown's not necessarily going to happen for all the reasons you said, but we had this a train strike earlier on this week. Is that right? Yes. And people didn't really notice because they just stayed at home and worked from home. So
exactly,
it's changed the whole culture of how people. I don't actually mind lockdown. I must be the only one that actually really quite liked it. You know, I quite like not having to worry about kind of achieving anything really. Do
you think there might be do you think there might be a mad rush of people are like, okay, we're afraid all the countries are going to start shutting down, especially around Christmas, and just try to get to their destinations before they can't? There's that sometimes a factor as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in a self-imposed lockdown through most of the winter anyway, so it's basically hibernation. But so let's go to. I know obviously time is marching on. We did start a little late.
Oh,
so,
the Chortle one. I'd love to know.
Oh well, let's definitely do that. But actually, Dana chose this rather fascinating, a fun tweet from Dionne Warwick, and I was just like, "What's?" It's just a fun.
I love
one,
that.
isn't it? So
I just love Dionne Warwick's tweets. She's just funny. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think a lot of people have really gotten a kick out of following Dionne Warwick, but it's just people do get a little bit ridiculous sometimes when it comes to the fashion, and it is a very good question. A winter jacket and we call them shorts.
It's a picture of Tyler, the creator, in a winter jacket and in shorts. Now I don't know. 8.8 million followers to Tyler, the creator. I presume there's a fashion. He's a fashion designer. I would know.
No, he's a pop star.
Is he? Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, he's brilliant. He's brilliant.
Is he brilliant? Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's great.
We are down with the kids here in this show.
No, sorry, it's all gone picked on.
I didn't know he was.
But and Dionne Warwick's asking, "Are you hot or cold, dear?" Which has got that lovely, slightly patronising edge, which I like. But yeah, it's great. Mind you, I'm all right.
I personally, I'm gonna put it out there. I think he's hot.
Okay. Well, in specifically in the puffer jacket and shorts.
He's hot in most things.
And look at the white snow behind him as well, as if to sort of almost highlight that. Look, I am wearing this in the weirdest red feather.
I'm too hot for winter.
I'm too hot for winter.
He is,
and I'm too cool for summer.
I'm gonna look him up now. That is fun. It's a great shot. It's actually quite a cool. I mean, I actually think there is a kind of literally a cut-off point for shorts, and it's around somewhere between 12 and 14 degrees. But I think he's pushing it there.
But I think the length is ideal. He's got the length absolutely right. He's hot.
He's got the legs.
Cool.
He's got the length right. Right. Okay.
Yeah, he's got the length right.
Yeah, actually, let's do. Right, so let's do, David, your tweet from Chortle is on the British Comedian of the Year 2021, a review of the final of the most lucrative competition in comedy. And that's, I believe, because the winner gets £10,001, which is £1 more than the Edinburgh Comedy Awards.
Yes, that's right. And it was won by Jeff Innocent. And anyone who knows comedy knows that Jeff Innocent is a comic who's been plugging away for over 20 years on the British circuit. He's an absolute surefire, raise the roof, always slams it, always smashes it. Headliner, does big gigs, does small gigs, works and works and works, is a real grafter, and just a really stand-up guy as well. So it's nice to see good people winning instead of people who've been in on the circuit for 2 years and just happen to be flavor of the month. And he's got no TV profile at all.
Will this change it?
There's hope for us all.
We've had this issue covered before about, like, the ones that kind of have worked for it, I suppose, for years and years and years, and then how you're sort of rooting for them, and perhaps those who find fame sort of a little bit sooner. And I'm just wondering if, like, it should be redefined that you are a comedian for TV, or where that is where the ultimate goal for your career is, and because a circuit club comedian is a very different thing. Do you guys think that because obviously I don't deny anybody who's managed to make it really quickly. We've had a really, like the last year even, of newer acts like breaking through very quickly, but I think they all kind of deserve it because they have been working really hard. They've been really getting out there, especially during lockdown. It's just should there be a new genre, if you like, of you are young and you'll get on TV in a couple of years' time too. Hey, these guys have been working on the circuit, and to hold the attention of an audience for for 20 minutes and making them laugh for 20 minutes solidly is a skill that takes years.
Well, a lot of those people who are working on the circuits, 15 and 20 years ago were the TV comics of their day, and I think there's a lot of people who have crossover. Like, I wouldn't call myself a TV comic. I think I've done maybe 8 different galas or specials. I've done it, but I think in Canada, you just have to do everything. What I find more interesting is what's a comic? Because I feel like, okay, yeah, anybody can get up there and be humorous, but like, the thing I always say is I don't see any circuit or club comics struggling in theaters or really on TV for that matter, but you don't necessarily see it the other way around all the time. I see a lot of people who are like kind of pushed to the forefront, but they can't even hold it down in a club for 12 minutes, Is that, to me, that's like, and that's the other thing too, like when you go to the States, the club doesn't have like this, like people here kind of see the club as lower work. But I mean, when I was in New York, you go to the clubs and like Gina went on after Ray Romano, Judd Apatow's bouncing around and doing sets. You know what I mean? Like you run into, Louis C.K., all kinds of, famous television comedians. And there was always like a badge of honor being able to, like, I feel like, I think like in the States, it's like you have to be able to do that before you can say you're a comic. I don't think that's necessarily the case here.
Yeah, that's probably true. I do think there are some comedians that, who have come off the circuit and they've gone to Edinburgh and they've done an hour show and it hasn't worked because an hour has been too much for some of them. There's a lot of people that I would rather watch for 20 minutes than an hour anyway. There's nothing wrong with perfecting the art of 20 minutes as far as I'm concerned. There are club comedians who I would much rather see perhaps than the sort of hour-long full show comedians. But there's definitely been instances in the past where people have been very curious about Edinburgh, obviously, especially as it became the juggernaut that it did, and they wanted to do their hour show, and it's just not their medium, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, really.
Do you mean like an hour show from newer acts like Breaking Through on TV, or do you mean like an hour?
No, I'm talking about the reverse scenario, I think, to what Dana was outlining, which is that there are long form comics, if you like, that are newer comics that have struggled in a club.
Yeah.
Well, I have to disagree with that for a couple of reasons. I feel like the hour model is bred out of Edinburgh, and I think Edinburgh really cuts out the working class comics. It's not necessarily that they can't do an hour, that's not for them. It's just that they don't have, $4 or $5 grand.
Well, I didn't say what class they were. I just said that they've been more used to doing
that's not my shows. But you see my point. Like, the kind of comic that can actually, there's a bunch of people being excluded from that system, and I don't think it's because they can't do that hour. I think it's a financial thing.
But I think also, I see Julian's point, which is, I think, like you're saying, people who have got great club comics, who then think they should do an hour show because, they've done the clubs and they want to now do an hour show. Is that what you're saying? That they don't? What I'm saying. And I kind of agree with that, actually, that they're fantastic. So the reverse is true, that fantastic club comics don't necessarily know this sort of the hour format, which is almost theatre, actually, in Edinburgh. It's almost become like, you've got to have the arc and everything else. And if you are, and there's certain comics that wouldn't necessarily, especially if it's a strong sort of gag writer, an hour of gags is non-stop gags is quite, then you need a story. And I know both of you are both like kind of quite satirical and David, especially, I've just got to tell you how amazing a routine is that you do
Thank you.
The new show. It's one of the cleverest things I've heard. And
I also think David works really good at a 20-minute act, and I think he works really good as an hour.
And so similarly for you. But what I'm saying, what Julian said, there are certain acts, and that is that you can see for an hour. And it's not, it's like, oh, okay, because, you are amazing on the 20-30 minutes circuit, bam, bam, bam. But the hour show it's a different beast. And I remember even a friend of mine saying to me, "Oh, I've now done the hour show, which is a different beast in Edinburgh. I now have to go back and get myself psyched up to do the." She said she wanted to get back into the club circuit because there is a different. They're two different. They're very different beasts. You know, club to an hour. But we could have this conversation for ever and ever.
Wouldn't you say there's more than two beasts, though? Do you know what I mean?
Oh, there's more than two beasts. There's a TV beast. There's a radio beast. Yes, there is.
And there's also a social media beast, a TikTok beast.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And a lot of these people who are catapulted to prominence these days come out of TikTok and Instagram, and they can work on TV because they can edit it in a way much like Instagram or TikTok that it works. But as Dana says, put them in even a 10-minute spot in a club or an hour somewhere, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. And I just think that there's a lot of status put on TV comics, people who can do well in that environment. And someone like Jeff Innocent, who's been delivering at what he does really well, doesn't get the exposure on TV or anywhere really, just on the club circuit, which you can be very successful on the club circuit and mostly no one's heard of you. And I think this is a nice corrective to see Jeff Innocent get a little bit of heat, a little bit of buzz after delivering for so many years so successfully. Yeah.
And I think he'd work well on television.
He'd be brilliant on one of the panel shots.
I think he'd do a great television spot. No problems.
And there's no reason that from this they should be looking at him now. They should say now's the moment to bring a Jeff Innocent onto a panel show. You know? Because he's also not 25. He's not even 45. You know what I mean? Like, he's got to be pushing 60 if he's not 60 already.
I mean,
so
I've never heard. I like the way you've done that because that sounds like a sort of brilliant advertising. He's not 25. He's not 45. He's 65. Please welcome.
Yeah.
Martin, our fan here agrees with you and says he should be on TV. Is that right? Yeah, Jeff Racer should be on TV.
Probably.
I'm all for the veteran. I'm all for the veteran comedians. And actually, as a promoter, it's a very frustrating position to be in because the audience are demanding TV names. And
yes.
You think, come on, when you've run a club for so long, surely have some faith in the promoter that they're going to book, acts that you're going to love. And it's not necessarily the TV names that are going to have to, be the reason why you come out of, the house.
I think also too, the one thing that we haven't really spoken about is the fact that the two biggest comedy agents are also television producers. So it's a little bit of a closed shop.
Yes.
Oh, well, we could. Right, now we'll have another podcast on that one, I think. Right, so David, I just want to squeeze one more in, and this is actually one of your own tweets. So if you want to kind of read this out, and let's tuck into this one.
Yeah, this one's been really interesting to me. So I tweeted this, and I said, am I the only one that thinks it's ridiculous the Venus and Serena Williams movie is named after their dad? It's called KingRichard, by the way. Who was asking for a movie about him? They're the inspirational champions. So this is about this movie that was produced by Venus and Serena Williams, but also produced by WillSmith, and it stars WillSmith. It's called KingRichard. And I remember when I saw the trailer a few months ago, actually, KingRichard with WillSmith. And I had in my mind, because I wasn't clear, I thought KingRichard was doing Shakespeare. I thought it was a Shakespeare thing. So then I clicked on it or something. It didn't look right because I think I was thinking of Macbeth, which is coming out with Denzel Washington, which I already knew, but somehow I didn't also know exactly what that was. Anyway, so I thought, wait a minute, is this what I was thinking? KingRichard, what is this? And then I watched it and I watched the trailer and it's actually about the father of Venus and Serena Williams. And I thought to myself, well, why is the movie, the big Hollywood movie about Venus and Serena Williams, why is it foregrounding the father? And why isn't it called Superstars, the Venus and Serena Williams story? You know what I mean? So I immediately went to this kind of, there's a sexism thing going on here. And also WillSmith, to me, who I have affection for like the Independence Day moment and the early years. But he also, something about him, now he's got a book out at the moment. It feels very kind of vanity project in my mind, right? So I put that out and a bunch of people agreed. But then I got a lot of other tweets that said, why are you attacking this Black actor? This is Venus and Serena are
the producers.
They're producers. It's their story. They get to say what their story is. If they're okay with it, why aren't you okay with it? This is white supremacy in action, all this stuff. And I thought, oh, wait a minute. I touched a nerve here that I was not expecting to, because I was saying something about that I thought I saw sexism in action. And they were saying, I'm speaking out of turn or I got it wrong. So anyway, I'm intrigued to hear your thoughts on this because, this is obviously charged.
Well, I think what's really interesting is I might have looked at it as a misogynoir thing as well. And there's been so many stories of female-led Black movies that have been put on limited release. We can talk about Diary of a Mad Black Woman. We can talk about Dream Girls. But there's this perception in Hollywood that you can't sell a movie with a Black female lead. And
interesting. Yes.
There's also what was the other one with what's her name? Where they were all the NASA mathematicians. They did the same thing with that movie. They put it on a limited release because they just didn't think
something minds.
Yes, and they thought these Black women, and then the funny thing is, time after time, it proved that no, this isn't true. These movies were, smash hits. So it's kind of like, I would have to say, it's their story to tell, so they can tell it in any way they want. But I mean, to me, I just think the studios have never really celebrated the Black female lead, or when there is a Black female-led project, it's often underestimated on limited release, and that's also reality.
I mean, he is pretty fascinating character, though. I mean, he is incredibly driven. Apparently, he had this 2 years before they were born. He already had this plan mapped out. There'd been no particular history of tennis in his life, I don't think. They were going through this on Graham Norton the other night because Will Smith was a guest, and Will Smith comes onto the Graham Norton show quite a lot, actually, and his appearances are always really good fun. But and he said that Venus and Serena had obviously gone to the premiere and that they were sort of really tearful about it and they enjoyed it. I didn't know they were on the thing as producers, but obviously that makes complete sense. In a way, because the characters are not Richard the father is not a character who is on the tennis court. So where Venus and Serena did their speaking was on the court, and obviously Richard was driving everything else. So it does kind of make him this sort of mogul character, and it does give him a bit more. It gives him a bit more dimension, because when you see movies about tennis players, they're not. It's not an easy balance to strike. I mean, the Borg-McEnroe thing, which was about a very specific match, was kind of great to watch. But you never get the whole picture. I think it's kind of difficult, really. I'm just trying to think of other sort of sport equivalent movies. I'm trying to think of any.
It seems like that would be a second movie you do after there was a movie about the actual girls, personally.
Yeah. Well, I kind of agree with you, Jenna. And David, going back to your tweet, I did see it as misogyny. My son said to me, "Go and watch, King Richard," and like you, thought it was some Shakespearean reference.
Oh, you've gone, Sajeela, or I've gone. Can it, Sajeela?
I can hear.
Oh, you can hear.
Sajeela, your volume.
Yeah.
I can't hear.
Can you hear?
For a second there.
Of.
Yeah, you can hear.
Yeah,
can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
She's gone again.
She's gone again.
Jesus.
She's in and out.
Again.
You can hear me.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, I can now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
We got
okay,
you.
sorry about that. Something,
So did you think it was Shakespearean, or did you think it was about Richard III? Well, like footage of him being unearthed under the car park or something. But yeah. No. Oh no. Oh, it's all going. It was all going so well technically. After getting Dana back, I thought this was a cinch. Yeah.
There you are.
Hello. And now you're.
She's frozen, I think.
Okay, she's gonna log in and out again, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Oh
Yeah.
yes.
Oh,
We can
okay,
hear you
right.
but can't see you.
Oh, obviously something's lost.
Oh, now you're back. Now you're back.
Right. So I was going to say, I think it's gone to the other camera. That's why the camera's gone.
Well, it's a technical setup in your place. Go on.
Yeah. No. If I knew, known it was about to be interested, I would have.
Can't really hear you.
Yeah, it's your audio.
Okay.
There's a short, I think, in your mic.
Something's not working.
I tell you what. Why don't we do the bit where we would do at the end of the show anyway? Whilst she's working that out, what are you guys up to in the near future? Where can we see you live? What other projects have you got on the go? David, you go first. You've taken a deep breath in.
Oh gosh, I mean there are just so many. Well, let me choose. Let's see. I hope to be lying in tomorrow morning. I guess the best way to see where I'm gigging is on Instagram. I post my upcoming gigs on Instagram. I have I'm glad that reminds me. I have a weekly e-newsletter you can sign up to if you are, want a little bit more of me commenting on the world, and that's called Quality Time. And if you go to my Twitter, you can link to my Quality Time newsletter. I post my upcoming gigs on Twitter and Instagram, and that's the best way to find me.
Perfect. And you're at David Mills' department. Is it department or deputy?
That's right.
It's department. No, there's no
department.
David Mills. There's no deputy David Mills. There's not two of you, are there?
It's not deputy. Yeah.
Brilliant stuff. Yeah. Dana.
I'm busy as always, just gigging and gigging. I'll be at all of the Glees this month. I think it's Nottingham, Birmingham, Cardiff, and then Cardiff for the new year. And what else do I have going on? Yeah, well, you know what? I've actually taken a little bit. I'm just cooking and writing and just living my comedy life for now.
Not going to Switzerland, obviously, but yeah.
No Switzerland.
Yeah.
No Switzerland.
No Switzerland.
Am I back?
Oh, well done. You're back. Fantastic
yeah, I'm back.
Stuff.
Sorry about that. Yeah, it's a typical. Yeah, I just wanted to say I would have watched this. I thought it was sexist, not race-based, David, just to answer your question of what we thought about it. Yeah. But you've been a brilliant guest. Honestly, really good value. Thank you so much. Yeah, really
I'm
good
so
stuff.
glad.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. So obviously David and Dana have just filled us in with what they're doing. In terms of what we're doing next is, what date is it next? It's the 5th, isn't it? Sunday the 5th of December, and we will have Caroline Maybe and Steve Day with us. So we'll be putting out information about that fairly soon. We'll be doing clips from this show, and the show will be available to watch again on YouTube, Facebook. I'm not sure if it's available on Twitch, but go to YouTube and subscribe. And so I think that's it. You've got the Twitter handles for Dana and David to follow them, and all that remains to be seen is for us to wave goodbye to our streamers in unison and say thanks for watching. Thanks for watching, guys.
Thanks so much.